Yeah, it's
Um,
really, really interesting.
yeah, I went to the mall today. I gotta tell you
Hmm.
about that.
I stayed away from
I mean,
all of the
I
big.
didn't go to shop. I'm watching the refresh
Yeah.
here on
Oh,
com.
okay. Oh, yeah. Speaking of which, let me get that back on here. Let me
Here we
get the
go.
Substack.
Do you get the YouTube yet or anything? Hey, we've got some folks
I did.
joining. Welcome very much. Hello and happy day after Thanksgiving, also known as Black Friday. Chris, Sharon, June, Candace, Bridget, Kathy, Rose, Pamela, Tom, Patrick, a couple zooming in here quick. Donovan, Peter, I'm sorry if I missed you. Elaine, Tamara, or Tamara, I'm not sure. Leah, Jermaine, Denise, Dean, Sia Blake, welcome, all of you. Tim, Judith, Evans, welcome. Danny, Debbie, Paul. And yes, Candace, I absolutely agree. Happy Friday, and happy Friday to you too. Peter and Angie and Newt and Annie, we've also got. And welcome to you all. I hope that you're Thanksgiving went well. We got a couple more coming in. Hello, VH and Jackie and Tracy. Welcome to Friday, and welcome to the Rick and Lisa show. So that said, with all of that, then Lisa, the other half here, the better half,
Mhm.
I would argue, is how are you today? How are you doing?
Doing great. I also agree with Candace. Happy Friday, and this weekend has been wonderful. I'm happy to report that Thanksgiving was lovely with my family. There was no like uninvited discussions of anything,
Oh,
thank goodness. It was great.
right, we talked about that on
Yes.
Wednesday, wondering how things would go. Wow,
Yes.
so
I
it
hope
was
that's
it,
the same thing with everybody else, with everyone else,
yeah.
that you guys had a wonderful Thanksgiving with your families.
Yeah, well, I can tell you, we did have on my end a kind of, it's funny in hindsight, but it really wasn't at the moment. But so I cooked for Thanksgiving as
Nice.
per usual, right? And, I love doing it. I've been doing it for many years now. And since, uh, family was going to be small gathering, just to kind of, get together. It was going to be 1 p.m., right? And so I have made arrangements for my dad to get picked up by my brother and my oldest brother, and those two individuals. This gets relevant in a moment. Uh, are both in the stone age of technology, and love them dearly, but they refuse to get smartphones.
Mm,
So they
mm.
have the flip kind. If they had the kind you could still carry around by the 12-volt battery that weighed 48 pounds and use that, they would probably go for that one too. But in this case, anyway, so just mark that thought. Then so 1 o'clock comes and no sign of my dad or brother. And I had taken a breather just for a minute as everything was kind of loaded up, ready to go out to the table. We were going to eat, sit down. Everything was just going to be hunky dory. And yet, two of the five of us were missing. So the thoughts were, just ran out through my mind. I thought, well, maybe this is a bad traffic day, maybe
Mhm.
whatever. So 1:15 comes and goes, 1:25 comes and goes, and then we finally get. Yeah, I'm starting to come unglued here because I'm like, where are they? And I can't call them because they both believe in conservation of electricity, which involves turning off one cell phone whenever one is driving. So that is another just
Oh
wonderful
my.
thing. And if you have relatives like this, you can sympathize. You probably don't, because my two are probably the only ones left. Anyway, so it got to the point where closer to 2 o'clock, I'm calling every single police station between here and
Oh my God.
60 miles away where they are, because I thought perhaps that they had vanished off the face of the earth. We were having an Amelia Earhart, but with a car situation type thing. And that no, but that was not it. Then my wife, who has the best sense of any of us, insisted I call my dad now, and I was against the idea originally, just because he never answers the phone. He always screens calls, and sometimes he doesn't hear it. So I called, and I'll be darned, he picked up on the second ring, which has not probably happened in the last decade. I mean, seriously, decade, that he hasn't had a telephone answering machine screening his landline. So anyway, yeah, he's like, yeah, well, he was out of it, sleeping.
Oh
Asked how I was
my.
doing, and then the story unfolds apparently that he had already had Thanksgiving dinner, and it was at that morning with another brother. And anyway, as it turned out, he was fine. That was the most important
Oh,
thing of
thank
it all. But
God.
yeah, I, I had to take my the moment of Zen, and just play in my sand garden for a minute or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
Anyway,
because
yeah,
you feel helpless because you can't do anything. You're just bound
right.
by waiting to talk to somebody on the phone. You have no
That's
idea what's
right.
happening. That's horrible. Oh
And I know,
my.
but and if you think about it, I did have a flashback thought for us, though. For those of us that are over, a certain age, there was a time not that long ago when that exact scenario could play out every day.
Yeah.
Where we didn't have cell phones, and when we
Yeah.
definitely didn't have
And it did.
smartphones to text, and it did. Yes, absolutely. So, I mean, it wasn't what Thanksgiving was great. We've got all things worked out. Going to get together here again soon in the next couple of days, and all work out. So, but yeah, just had a missing dad situation, which was,
Oh
and
man.
he just passed his 90th birthday. So that's
Wow. That's awesome.
well, yeah, it
That's
is.
nice.
Really great. We're really
Wow,
happy
90.
with us, and he's so far, knock on wood, today he's still healthy and chugging away on
Mm,
the physical side. Again, some other
nice.
problems, but that's that.
I know, 90 years old though. I mean, that goes without saying, right? I mean, that's not
Right,
surprising. Yeah.
right, for sure, for sure.
BAH
So
says here he was like he said the MAGA family, our MAGA family members went elsewhere. It was amazingly peaceful. Well,
yes,
that'll do it.
that's they were congregate. No, I don't want to say what they were doing, but I know some MAGA folks that were congregating in a bar somewhere in near the town where I live here. So, but I didn't talk to them yesterday. I texted them Happy Thanksgiving. I didn't get any response, so I think that
Mm,
they're not having it. I don't know about their day, but who knows? Maybe they did. Uh, so yeah, we've had some news that carried over from
yeah.
uh, the tragic shooting on Wednesday. It was kind of late breaking news that we brought up there with the two service members in the National Guard who were shot. It turned out by an Afghani national. There were a couple things I kind of wanted to talk about first with that,
Yeah.
and unless you had anything else you wanted to launch off with, Lisa, if you're okay with that, we'll
Oh yeah, no, that's
pick up it.
perfect. It's just the whole thing is
Cool.
just it is. It's tragic, it's horrible. It just reading
Yeah.
about it, I'm sure everybody else in the audience would agree. It's it really like puts you in an awful mood. Just that whole situation, this whole thing,
Yeah.
and how the right is using it to their advantage as they always do. Never let a crisis go to waste. But if you
Right.
want to go,
And
yeah.
and I've got some interesting ones for
Yes.
anybody that gets engaged in those conversations that you might find as yeah, a way to put it out there. But I'll start from a place that tells you my opinion up front, and then work my way backwards from there. Which is, my
Mm,
opinion up front is that we shouldn't have been there anyway, because the military is not a police force, and Washington
right.
D.C. was not in crisis. This was about a president who was real horny to show how much of an authoritarian leader he was, and he could slap people here and there and order them around and make everything just what it was. And so the fact that these guard people were there, and I was not alone in this concern. There was somebody from the National Guard that, as the story was coming in, who's stationed in Los Angeles, who texted directly to the New York Times. He was anonymous because of he had an authority to talk on the matter, but he said this was waiting to happen. This was going to happen. One of two things: it was going to be somebody shooting, some military person shooting a civilian, or the reverse, a civilian shooting a military person or people. And obviously the latter happened, and that's just good. Hey, Robes, welcome and thank you. We do need meta and peace,
Oh,
and we
hi,
do need
Robes.
everyone. So yeah. Anyway, yeah. So there was a pretty high up person that was talking about that, and had texted a journalist at the New York Times, and they did repeat that. But unfortunately, then Beckstrom, the Sarah Beckstrom was her name, and she did pass away from her
Yeah.
injuries. And that our hearts go out to the family who was involved in that or connected to her. That's obviously a huge loss for everybody. But the thing that I think was misconstrued a bit here, and I want to set facts straight, not to advocate for the violence in any way. I want to be really clear that, my God, this is tragic, and this guy was an absolute nutball, a psychotic to do what he did, and a psychopath to do what he did, because he did it, as far as we can tell, in cold blood. He
Hmm.
ambushed both of these service members and shot them at very close range. He struck Beckstrom first, and then the other gentleman, and his name escapes me first. I think it was okay. So anyway, the the gentleman who did the shooting, though, his name, I'm not going to attempt to pronounce his first name, but his last name was Lockonwall, and he
Hmm.
resided in Bellingham, Washington. And Bellingham, obviously not to their, with his wife and 5 children. So you have a large family involved. This wasn't a guy who just hopped out of nowhere. He had been actually in the 2000s, earlier 2000s, he had been trained by our own forces to
Hmm.
as kind of a CIA operative. That was the language used in the newspaper, and the language that was going around on media today was a lot of this. Well, we've got to shut off all immigration
Yep.
from all brown skinned countries,
Yep.
and that's got to come to an end right now, because we can't let these unvetted people come in. And it's like, well, first of all, yeah, okay. First of all, the CIA, multiple levels, actually vetted him before he came in, while he was first working in Afghanistan, and then when he was brought here, he was under a judge's orders under a protective order to not be deported, because he was going to be
Hmm.
killed if he was sent back from Afghanistan. But Trump, at a press conference today, had a picture of, if you remember, I don't know, Lisa, if you would or not, but if you remember the airlift basically out of Afghanistan, when
Yes.
Biden ordered everybody out, cut the rope, cut the
Mass
ties, end it now.
evacuation.
Right. There was one picture that kind of made it in the media as sort of the poster of that event, which was all these people, like literally on the tarmac, crawling up onto the plane that was leaving, and they were trying to get into the plane. A lot of people maybe missed it, but I happened to catch it. So if you remember what I'm talking about,
Hmm.
certainly do that. But anyway, the Trump whipped that particular picture out and said, here, this is the kind of craziness we've got to deal with. And
Oh my God.
yeah, and I kind of went like, what?
See, this
Because
is the kind of stuff, if you don't mind, just to kind of interject here for a
yeah,
second,
please.
because this is part of what I'm talking about in terms of them, the right, using these things and conflating things together and distorting and for their own purposes, and they are the masters of this. First of all, not to get too into the weeds about this, but Afghanistan in particular was pretty much all Trump's fault. Everything that he did while he was still in office, negotiating with the Taliban, cutting the Afghanis out, the Afghani government, everything that he did, and the reason why Biden had to execute the plans the way that he did is because of what Trump and not Pompeo. Was it Pompeo? It was Pompeo. Yeah, it was. It
Yeah.
was it was Mark Pompeo. And it was their plans that they left this steaming pile of shit for the next administration to take care of.
Yeah.
So the reason why, and I remember Ron Filipkowski saying it is actually a miracle that only 13 people died from what they did with the evacuation. He's like, that is probably
Right.
the most successful evacuation in history and the most enormous and the most like dangerous that has ever
Yes.
been done.
Yeah.
But what dominated the airwaves, it was all Biden's fault. This is Biden, like all that stuff, right? This is the kind of
Right.
stuff that just makes my blood pressure tick up to like 1,000. Like
Yeah.
I can't anymore with these people, with this crap, because now in today, present day, you have them being like Biden era, Afghani
Oh, right.
illegal, like
Yeah.
that's all I'm seeing is all of these, and because they just let these people in indiscriminately. But like you said, he had temporary protected status because, and then now you also add to that this mistrust of the FBI and the CIA. They're like, oh, well, now look at that. He was a
Yeah.
CIA operative. Look at these evil people. It just
Yeah.
keeps on snowballing onto itself with all this misinformation and disinformation.
Yeah, and that's so true, and it's absolutely I think when you stack it like that, that is it becomes a much clearer picture for people who otherwise might have not heard or
Sure.
not maybe not been totally tuned in at the time. And if that's by the way, part of this podcast is all about that. I want to reinforce that message, which is, hey, if you didn't know about it, no worries. There's so
Correct.
much to catch and so
That's why
much
we're all
to.
here
That's
to
right.
compare
And
notes.
so we're always just from a very humble perspective, trying to make sure we're sharing information around there. And so the bottom line is it's just it's a situation where uh, Bellingham and this, I believe, or I'm sorry, the guy from Bellingham and this event, sort of, we don't know the motives from back in his hometown yet or what it
Mm,
was. That was something that I was looking at. I was also, saying there was the idea that the FBI, and I've said this before, the FBI is under U.S. code tasked with the job of tracking domestic terrorism and
mm, mhm.
investigating domestic terrorist threats, and that's a big job, and they are given a substantial amount of money. But I as part of the investigation and just sort of research for preparation of this episode, I wanted to refresh my memory and the numbers to see what they are now about where the FBI is in regards to it. And why do I bring this up? Because let's talk about ICE for a minute. ICE has gotten, from their budget perspective, they have gone up in terms of the funding into this absolutely stratospheric realm of 170 billion dollars. They have a supplementary fund this year that is covering the costs of. I was just turning to a page to look at this in my notes, but yeah, it says they have uh, uh, their normal baseline budget for DHS was, believe it or not, total for all the departments, 10.4 billion, and that's
Mhm.
the overarching thing. And then this year they got 75 billion. They had in that part, and they had 178 billion supplemental that was allocated to them, of which they've spent an enormous amount of money out of that already. And this is in this particular year, and
Man.
Rouse Crew, you're right. That they're the largest military force in the United States. That's
Mhm.
ICE is that. I love that comment. But here they've also taken, because they can't fill the staff positions fast enough, they've taken people from the FBI counterterrorism units,
Yes.
domestic counterterrorism, and this is my big beef. And I don't want my voice to go into that preachy soapbox type of mode I can get into sometimes, but I really get torqued to the nines when it is absolutely, you're robbing Peter to pay Paul. This is taking from here to put it over here, so that we can do what? We can track down, Hispanic grannies
Mhm.
in
Mhm.
pajamas, because it's
That's
clearly
right.
not the worst of the worst. It's the color of your skin, and it's
Yep.
racist. And I'll call it right out for how I see it. That I can say, my fears don't lie for the people who are white Caucasian people like me. I'm saying those fears are for people who are black and brown skin. It is, and it's going to be, it's those people today. But my problem with it is with numbers like we're talking about, where it's 178 billion supplemental funding. That's enough. That's enough money to build a prison cell for just about everybody in the entire North America, or just say the United States, all 337 million, which is our latest population estimate of us, right? That's enough to build a jail cell for that many people. And why do we need that? And today it's the black and brown people. Tomorrow it's going to be the people who disagree with Trump. He's already made that clear through multiple channels, through the mouthpiece of JD Vance, through the mouthpiece of all people, Marco Rubio,
Mm.
who's Cuban and has the brown skin, excuse me, or the tint of the brown skin. And I could just keep going on. And you've got
Yeah.
a bunch of other idiots that is, I don't know who's sitting at the desks at the FBI anymore when the phone rings, if there is anybody. So
Oh my God.
today it's ICE. Today it's ICE going after the hooded grandmother. And tomorrow, and I'm not saying that everybody that ICE has gone after has been like that. I know there's
Right.
nothing black and white in the world.
Correct.
There is only gray shades of gray that you can assign to it. But definitely this shade of gray is definitely to me has all the hallmarks of racism. And when I was doing the budget, the budget, I was looking at the budget numbers. I asked
Mm.
the adjacent question of the FBI, which is do we know how much the cutbacks have been on the FBI's, not so much the financial level, because that just tells you one piece of the picture. This is how much has it from the operational side have we actually seen the FBI get people yanked from that domestic terrorism section, which is responsible for, like I said, under the law, the domestic terrorism investigations. And they have seen a threat level go up this year almost like a straightly vertical like a line in terms of compared to previous years when Biden was in the administration. And that's a big deal. Now this guy, yeah, he's a psychopath. He walks
Right.
up and shoots people. I'm not, how much planning went into this, I don't know. Was this connected to other people? I don't know. But I will tell you, when the director of the FBI, whose biggest claim to fame is a podcaster, no offense to podcasters and myself included, and certainly you, Lisa, but the truth
Right.
is, when his biggest claim to fame, maybe he shouldn't be running the largest law
Correct.
enforcement thing in the world, right? And he gets up and tells the microphone and to the entire press that that they're going to be, this is the entire fort, look at all these people behind me, we're all aimed at getting this horrible guy into custody, and as soon as we're going to do it, we're going to bring the weight of the world down on him when we do catch him. The only problem with everything he was saying at that moment in time as the top guy was that the guy had already been apprehended. And I'm not kidding you. He had actually did not know that at the moment he was
Wow.
saying that. We're not talking like 3 seconds earlier. We're talking like it had been a half
This is
hour.
ridiculous.
It's like, give me my money back from the FBI. I want all my tax dollars that went there to be in my refund check and that from the IRS for my portion of it this year. What a
Oh my
bunch of
God.
fools, right?
And then you have Pam Bondi running around, which I just saw, and I don't know if this is factual because it was one of the right wing publications I know talking about her already lobbying for the death penalty for this person, already like spouting this
Yeah,
off that we're seeking the death penalty for him and all. And
yeah,
I'm just like, this is like, you want to talk about inflammatory,
it is.
completely unprofessional. Yeah, all of that. Like, this is crazy. FBI working on this.
She is one of the most unbelievable. She's two things. She does two kinds of attacks in debate and in public
Hmm.
speaking. There's names for all of this stuff. One is the ad hominem attack, which is where she
Oh
just
yeah.
goes after people directly. It's like right for the jugular. And it's an attack that's based, on personal, like whatever,
Hmm.
just pull up dirt and throw it at the person. And then the other one she does that she's a master of is the red herring. And the third
Yeah.
thing, which you just brought up, yeah, Carly won't give up. I like that. She's the nastiest woman. I hope she goes to jail someday. I kind of, I'm inclined to agree with you. I absolutely I'm absolutely in favor of that. I think she looks worse and worse. I think she
Oh,
sold her soul to the devil. I think she looks worse and worse every day.
all of these people
Uh,
look
yeah, I mean,
horrible.
you look at Marco Rubio. He looks like he's about ready, 2 seconds away from just like doing a Harry Carey right in the middle of the guy. Yeah, and this is a guy who hated Trump in
Yes.
2016, and it's like wow. Where did they have the appointments with the actual Satan? Was it near the White? Was it a White House adjacent? Was it in the bunker that's now destroyed on the East Wing? They had to get rid of it because I don't know. There's so much we don't know. But how? Wow, these people are there. And then Pam Bondo. I'm calling her that because it takes that much. If you've seen the South Park thing, you get what I'm talking about. She's a real piece of work and just runs her mouth like a arrogant,
Yep.
doesn't give a single second thought in the world to it. But my biggest point I'll come back to is the is the whole thought that this thing did not need to happen, and it is not a function of liberals or conservatives. It's conservatives lighting up the situation with putting them there in harm's way, putting them in a situation that the guard is not supposed to be dealing with by charter. I mean, by definition, they're not there to do law enforcement, and it it boils my blood, and I hope it boils yours too,
Oh, yeah.
about that. And that kind of lets me pivot into something I didn't have a chance to give you a warning, but it's really not that terrible of a thing. I did catch a thing after I sent the show notes over to you
Hmm.
today about from Heather Cox Richardson about Trump and his own behaviors. Now, this wasn't like just today that she came out with this. This was a short on YouTube that she did. And if those of you did, first of all, I plug Heather Cox Richardson. If you don't know who she is, we'll definitely can let you know. HCR is her kind of nickname, and she did a short thing on YouTube that I want to play at least the first part of it, but
Okay.
it talks
Perfect.
about the state of Trump and her observations on how things are not going very well with that because and there's a comment she makes in the middle of it that I'll come back to, but
Not okay. I've been saying that for a while, but if you are watching how he is behaving overseas, um,
like I said, this
People
was about
magazine
2 weeks
today
ago.
said, he boasted on Air Force One about taking what appears to have been a dementia exam. And we know he had his first, at least by 2018. That's the first time that I believe it was NBC reported that he talked about having one. Um, he was boasting about what a great job. He got a perfect score on what he called an IQ test, but I
Mm.
promise you, identifying a tiger and an elephant and a giraffe is not on an IQ test. So there
Oh
was
my
that
God.
weird boastfulness, and then he was weirdly dancing. I think it was in Malaysia, and then he got to Japan for a meeting with my notes just went blank, so we're going to see where we end up here. That was my technical difficulty before. Hang on.
This is
With the
live
Japanese
podcast.
prime minister, and he just wandered off. He just started wandering. So oh, now my notes are back. This is good. So he's it is getting harder and harder and harder to look away from the fact that the president is not okay. And people are asking what they can do in this moment, and that's one thing really to push, especially
This
Republican
is the point.
representatives and senators
Hmm.
and governors on. Do you think that JD Vance is capable of taking over this government? And do you think the president is okay? Because the fact that this dude has the nuclear codes, I mean, he
Rouse
probably doesn't
crew.
remember he has the nuclear codes, but certainly his behavior is very erratic. And the
And
fact that he
Charlie,
felt able to tear down the East Wing of the White House with no permits, no permissions, no consultation with Congress, nothing, suggests that he does not have any inhibitions. And that is profoundly, profoundly dangerous.
Right. And so, yeah, it was kind of interesting. I had to look up and go, did she get to that part when Carly made the comment about Andy's got the nuclear code? I was
Right.
like, wow, that's so true. And the other question that she asked, I thought was so on point. And Rashker, it's yeah, you're dead on. Everybody's reading my mind tonight. Vance is not capable of taking over, not
Right.
just from I don't think there you really have to be smart in any way, as evidenced by the particular person in the White House right now. And yeah, profoundly dangerous. You don't have to be that bright, but you do have to be able to like synthesize things, and you have to manage a bunch of politically opposing demands, which is what Trump is increasingly, and it's a snowballing thing that's happening here, where it just is it's gaining volume and gaining traction as it rolls down this hill of being unable to manage the factions within his own MAGA coalition, let alone the people who can't stand JD Vance, and how
Mm-hmm.
quickly I think it's coming home to roost, which is
Yeah.
that the realization that these senators and these people who have ridden pathetically, in my mind, in a totally dependent posture on Trump for years now, and yeah, you think about the Biden time in the middle, but really it goes back to 2016, 2015, before that, whatever. It was that whole range of time that these people have been living like leeches
Yeah.
politically off of Trump,
Mm-hmm.
and he
Mm-hmm.
is moving past that age in life or state of unhealthiness or disease, that he's able to manage this stuff. This is going to all this will not just continue marching forward without a ringleader, and Vance is not that ringleader. He absolutely does not have the ability to inspire anybody. He couldn't
Nope.
even inspire the people at the donut counter when he was on the campaign trail to give
That's
them
right. I
some
forgot about
donuts.
that.
And that's literally the truth. I'm not making that
Mm-hmm.
up. I'm not being a smart ass, but it's like, wow, you really, really, really expect to hold a whole coalition of people with such diverse beliefs and thoughts together that it's impossible. And that what I think Trump did was as opposed to where he is now, it was more of his shining star was so bright that it kind of blinded all the cracks in the coalition that were already
Mm.
there. This wasn't, in my mind, MAGA was always a cult in some regards, because everybody could read. Here, I'll give you my, sorry, I gotta give you my quick story about young lovers. Okay. My quick story about, there's a young man, a young woman who are, or it could be young man, young woman, who cares, right? But they're in it, and they sit on a date. And if you watch them, the older people, especially people of my age and Gen X, if you watch them and you
Mm-hmm.
saw most of their time spent at the table was just staring lovingly in each other's eyes, you would walk away or turn to your significant other or friend or buddy or whatever and say, well, they'll be gone in a week, or 2 weeks. And there's a reason for that.
The
It's
honeymoon
because
phase.
it's not just the honeymoon. And you're right. It is the fact that each person in that situation at that age is reading what they want. They're painting in all of that silence with what they think the other person is like, and what they think the person's going to do for them. And I use
Mm-hmm.
that analogy only, or that kind of crossover, to explain that Trump's shining star was like for the people who were looking to him, they saw no wrong that he could do, because they were simply reading into that blank slate something really that was not there. And now that he's
Right.
uncoupling from within
It's
his
falling apart.
there, yeah, it's like, oh, you mean, my whole life I've hated chocolate ice cream and you've loved it. I didn't know that. And it's that kind of thing, only now we're talking about nuclear codes and nation regime change in Venezuela, and we're talking
Right.
about
Mm.
healthcare premiums doubling in the first of the year for a lot of us that are going to it's gonna knock all the wind out of our sails, and we've got to figure out ways to go around and deal with that. So, yeah, I wanted to share that piece of information about how Trump's just behavior is increasingly concerning, and
Yes.
it's something that I don't think is going to be able to hold the coalition that's in place together for very much longer. Does that make did I hopefully do
No,
that
that
justice?
makes a lot of sense. And also, this is something because the decline was already happening, even when Biden was in office, but all
Yes.
mainstream media and all anybody
Oh,
wanted
they
to
had to
talk
go
about is
after him, didn't they?
every single
Woo.
little thing with Biden, which is, okay, without even having to go there. The
Hmm.
decline was already happening with Trump, but they were able to camouflage him more. Now they absolutely can't. And
Right.
this is the thing where it is so glaringly obvious now, like just how precarious, like his health is, his mental faculties, all of these things.
Yeah.
So, not to mention the defecting then within MAGA now too going
Yeah.
on. Marjorie Taylor Greene, there
There's
are others. It's not just her. Yeah,
a
it's all
absolutely.
falling apart because, and again, like I was saying, the narrative is not matching up with reality, and the more that we're going, the worse that's going to be, the more apparent that's going to be for
Right.
the people in the cult.
Yes. And by the way, you mentioned her name, and it's just as soon as you said it, it's a absolute. There was a piece, I think New York Times or Wall Street Journal, I know New York Times or Washington Post, one of the two, did a piece on Marjorie Taylor Greene and how she's able to keep her whole full pension
Oh, you're right.
after she steps down from office because of the
Hmm.
timing of the day. And I will tell you, if I had the ability to step away from a job that I had worked, for decades, I'm not talking even her. She was a nobody. She was a
Correct.
non-existent, and not that long ago. And it's like, how do you get to keep your full government pension for the rest of your life at that
Hmm.
young of an age? And it just absolutely frosts me in ways that I have never been frosted before, because you think about people on this call in generations, the more the boomer side of the generations, where pensions were just vaporized out, because
Yep.
companies ran down their asset ledgers and just went gone. Yeah, levy 5 years. And they lost their pensions, they lost it all, or the 401ks that have dried up more than once, and unfortunately have come back for some people, for others not so lucky. There's just so many of us that work our asses off, and now they're in there. These it's basically, I'm seeing people in doctor suits going into the operating room with the big word Social Security over top of it, which involves all the funding for Medicaid, Medicare, Social Security payments, disability, everything, SNAP payments, all of those public funding situations, and they're going headlong, into a big single file line of corruption into the operating room, carrying scalpels and knives, and like, how are we going to take this apart? And it's
Right.
like, get out of my Social Security if there's nothing else. It's like,
And this is part of
that
the elitism of even,
yeah,
both chambers of Congress. Once they
yeah,
get to that level, it's like they're untouchable. They're also have that like oligarchical status, but
yeah,
only
and
those positions in the government,
yeah, and
like the same thing
it
with what happened with the shutdown. They all got paid and they had no interruption in their health care.
right. And yet, there were all these other people. And then we've got it's just, I could go on and on a tangent for that. I
Mm,
love Deborah Chay's, your comment there. Your husband worked for the Navy for 51 years, and he doesn't have the benefits Marjorie Taylor
mm,
Greene will have for being a hate monger. That was really what she was. She just stirred it up.
yes.
And, when I was a kid, my
It's her claim
mom,
to fame.
yeah, when I was a kid, my mom recognized some of my traits really early and squashed them out of me with brute force. And one of them was, it wasn't being a hate monger, that's not it, but she would say that I'd stir the pot. I would get in
Mm,
between my two brothers, and I would just say the right thing and push the right buttons at the right moment. And it's like she stomped that out of me like she was an elephant and I was a gnat. And I'm glad she did. And but it's like, wow, I thought, when I saw Marjorie Taylor Greene and her ilk, I went, wow, that you could make a living out of that if I would have,
yeah.
kept it up. And I guess I'm glad I wasn't. So yeah, it's unbelievable. But anyway, so all that, to just kind of wrap the thing there, I wanted to also play something. It's just a short clip, but I want to talk
Sure.
about the Hong Kong fire here for a little
Oh,
bit.
yeah.
Not so much because everybody here is interested in Hong Kong. I understand that. This isn't about that. What this is about for here, I mean, it's a tragedy and it's horrible. But what I've seen so many folks transact on is the question, what if this could happen there, could it happen here? And that's the absolute, like nerve-wracking thing, especially for folks that I know on, you live in Chicago, we've got
Yeah.
multiple very, very tall buildings there. And New York, same thing. We have some folks from there, and also on the West Coast in LA. But I want to talk about what some of the standards are that are here that are different from there, just to hopefully help make that there. But yeah, Belinda, I loved your comment here before we get into that. So most people already on their financial precipice cannot just redo their budget to come up with hundreds of thousands extra per month. In most cases, going without food, utilities, etc., would not even come up with the extra needed extortion payment. The increases guarantee that many more Americans will be forced into the ranks of the underinsured, and I will add to that the uninsured from a medical perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And it's Rob C, I just read your comment in a glance. I'm not going to read
It's
it
true.
back. So I'm not going to promote my own thing, but yeah, it's true. So yeah, all of that's true. But so let's take a shift in gears, and this actually has a good ending to it. So
Okay, good.
better information. I'm just going to bring up the video. There's no audio. Really,
Oh my.
the sound of it. I want you to see the video. The entire building is looking at is wrapped in this scaffolding made out of bamboo. Okay, so it's flammable scaffolding, flammable netting that brings see there. It's on fire. And you'll be quick here looking to 19. It's still burning. This is 32 stories in height. So a lot of buildings, like I forget what was Pierce Tower, what was it called now? I'm so sorry. Anyway, the bamboo thing there. Oh, you guys losing my sound or okay? And then back to the beginning. But yeah, that was. Can you hear me now? Can you guys hear?
I can hear you.
Okay. Can people?
Everybody else?
Is the sound back or not? So, no, it's not still, Rob. It's not still burning. The fire's out now. What the situation is?
Okay.
The situation is, as of now, there were 128 deaths that are confirmed at this point. The complex houses 4,800 people. It was built in the 1980s, and it was it's mostly I have to make this. I have to get this social jab back in at this is where we could be, by the way, because these apartments are 480 square feet. They're, like I said, 32 stories high and 480 square feet, packed to the gills with senior citizens, all living together, multiple people to one room and one bathroom, and they're all in there. And there's literally 4,800 people in multiple 32-story buildings. They just kept building and building and building and repeating. It was rinse and repeat and crank out the next one. And over time, as you saw, I don't know if you noticed it, but there were window air conditioners in there. So there's not even central air for these apartments. They're just hanging the air conditioner AC out the thing and hoping to get a cool thing. So there were 79 people injured in this particular thing. What else did they say? There's still like several hundred that are on Thor's kettle or Trump real estate. No, unfortunately, it most certainly was not. But that would not surprise me. It was under control by the evening, but the authorities still were searching for people still for a long time there. And yeah, the cause of it was that netting, as said,
Hmm.
fire protection systems. Now, here's the thing: because it was built in the 1980s in Hong Kong, it was not really taken as seriously as far as fire protection, and that got me thinking. Well, what do we have here, right? Well, there, that in that building at that time, what was built was they had no centralized smoke detectors in
Oh
every
my.
apartment. They did not have sprinkler systems in every
Hmm.
apartment either. So there is no flame control. And by the way, in case you don't know, it depends on the truck and the ladder and all that. But getting up very high in a fire truck is not a serious proposition. You have to fight the fire with water that's available up high. And there's a lot of interesting things that happen here in the United States to make sure that happens, so that we get water up high enough to fight the fire. Um,
Hmm.
the things, though, for tall skyscrapers here, which is the second part, the other half of this orange, if you will, in all of the structures that are, if we think about what we have now, about 7 stories, anything over 75 feet, which is really the practical limit of a ladder extension on really the Rob C. Trump really wants to bring back asbestos, so we're all good. Yeah. Uh, but 75 feet's the limit for most ladders. I mean, the water delivered by the ladder. So anything taller than that, 7 stories, you've got to, really have to prepare for fires as a really completely thought out system integrated into the building's fabric, if you will, or very construction. So nowadays, everything, I think it goes without saying, for decades, it is now mostly covered in terms of without exception, that there are sprinklers in every building, right?
Hmm.
That's just the thing, especially in any kind of housing or whatever that's there. I looked up a couple things. The replacements for the twin towers on 9/11, which
Hmm.
is where, by the way, interestingly, I got clued off by a DM from somebody who said, I saw the Hong Kong fire, and I thought, when I saw the death toll, I couldn't help but think about 9/11 and how the people were trapped in that building, and wondered, is this the same thing here? And so I looked in there. The twin towers were replaced by One World Trade Center in 2014. And that's the gold standard right now in the actual country and in the world for engineering and the fire protection systems and the safety systems, and it's absolutely unbelievable. There are always what they call wet pipe sprinklers in new buildings, and that means that those are pipes that are filled with water instead of being drained dry, which you would save
Oh.
some of the things. Yeah, and it was an interesting. I didn't know. So they have, in each zone, they cover up to about 1,500 square feet per zone, enough to douse a typical office or a residential blaze before it spreads. So that's at the ready at any moment. You've got a type of fire extinguisher that can do that. They have standpipes and hoses that run vertically through protected shafts, so that you cannot have these things melting or burning up around the pipes that are delivering water. That's the standard now in the code of the United States for buildings that are tall. And they've got smoke control and ventilation. And what they do, interestingly enough, I had forgotten about this completely, but in the buildings, one of the reasons that so many people die in unfortunately tall buildings is because of before this was all thought through and engineered. And it was a relatively easy fix to implement backwards in buildings that were constructed earlier in time than the early 2000s. It was what's called positive pressure stairwells, which is where when you are in it, the system pumps air into it, and it
Mm, mm,
gives you oxygen, clean
right.
oxygen to breathe. Most stairwells by default will be negative pressure, as I understand it, and so that means the smoke gets sucked into the thing, and you end up inhaling it, and that's what ends up
Mm,
killing people. So anyway, the standards now are basically that in any city from Chicago, Atlanta, New York, to LA, all of that stuff is now what they call sprinklers everywhere, which is the idea that apartments, corridors, and basements all have sprinklers. That there's no zone that's permitted to not have them. There's detection and alarms that are built into every system in every room within one of any kind of these large buildings. That's also applicable again to older buildings as well. They get retrofitted for that. There has to be in newer buildings. They have at least 2 fire-rated stairwells that can withstand fire for 2 hours, um, uh, pressurized against smoke, which I
mm,
talked about
mhm.
there. And then the stuff in New York, by the way, they are going to add, in addition to carbon monoxide detectors, they're also going to put in natural gas detectors as well
Mm.
that'll be able to do that. So and anyway, all the cities I mentioned, they're well advanced in these codes, and the type of situation that happened in Hong Kong is a very 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 small risk of happening in the United States. So,
Thank God.
but yeah, it's I hopefully puts some minds to ease, about the
Yeah.
safety of these buildings in our audience, at least, or at least for somebody. Um, but that's the deal on that, or the dealio on that. And that left us with our other fun topic, but I don't know if we have
Yes.
time. Yeah, okay, we do have some
Yeah,
time.
we have
That's
a few
great.
minutes.
Yeah, I want to talk about. Did you have a? I forget if you had something from today you sent me over. What was that? Oh,
Oh, that was actually a new content creator that I found. Well, it's
hmm,
not a new content, new to me, but that was something that we were going to talk about, like,
okay.
like on the side. But yeah.
Yeah. Okay. No. Oh, no big deal. Yeah. The other subject that we had was I found some interesting thing. Being Black Friday, I did a little bit of research on how today's stuff went, and I have to share kind of a personal quick story on that. Um, I did not go out. I do not go out on Black. I have not gone out for years on Black Friday, probably at all. I think I've dug a hole and tried to crawl in it. But the this year was a little different due to some of the excitement, as I started off the show with, about my dad. Uh, today kind of got kind of out of whack a little bit, just the way things went. And ended up, my wife and I were like middle of the afternoon. Thought, hey, it'd be a good time to go out, and there's a mall, maybe I want to say 8-10 miles away from where I live, and thought, hey, why don't we just go grab a bite at the mall?
Hmm.
Because they're all and on the afternoons, so yeah, we knew it was going to be busy, but we'll just go in and grab a bite and get back home and call it a day. Call that our trip into the great outdoors on Black Friday, and with keeping in mind that there have been probably many Fridays in years recent that we just didn't go out at all. Probably should have. But anyway, we got there, and it was like driving into a war zone. It was like people were
Oh my
just
God.
it was like driving in downtown Beijing or something, where it's just
Wow.
massive madness of cars everywhere, pointed in every direction. And as we finally got a spot, it was just long time of sitting and waiting and sitting and waiting. Finally got a spot, hiked 33 miles to the mall from where we parked in the next city over. And I'm just kidding, but we parked a long way away, and then we we went in, and just to what the entrance to this particular restaurant is on the outside of the mall, so it's not, you don't have to go
Oh,
in,
okay.
and that was a big difference and a big reason that it got me out of the car for this. But and we love this place, great food, great stuff. So we went in, got in there, ate. It was packed to the walls, and then I came out and to just kind of walk around for a minute before we left. And yeah, the people were just streaming in and out, and both directions, carrying bags of stuff that they were buying. And I thought, well, that boycott I was hoping for really didn't look
I
like it
know.
took effect for these people anyway. Maybe there will be, and we'll see some stuff. Maybe we'll see some numbers tomorrow that we can bring to you guys, and talk more about the actual data that comes up, because this stuff happens on such a large scale anyway that
Right.
whatever we do say about it is my observation of one mall at what point in time doesn't mean a whole lot. And I see a lot of the comments you guys are making about
Yes.
about the boycott, and we didn't buy anything other than just eating at the restaurant, and it's a locally owned place, so it was,
Oh, that's good. Yeah, I see
yeah.
Lisa Joy joined as well. Hi, Lisa. Yeah, she's like, no
Oh,
corporations have
hi,
profited
Lisa.
by me today. So much for the boycott. I know, Candace. I know. But I wonder online. We'll see. We'll see the numbers. We'll see
Yeah, we will,
what's
and they're
what. Yeah.
it's pretty quick. They come in. From most indicators, from what I've seen, we'll have numbers and data to report to you that are more fact based than that. But an interesting thing I saw reported on today was that the Gen Z folks, due to the kind of timing that the pandemic had relative to their upbringing, and to the kind of culture, the subculture, I guess you could call it, that the Gen Z people have developed and sort of bought into. I thought the buying habits that these people are demonstrating during this purchasing season, given the economy, given the way things are looking, and that it's actually a very encouraging thing for those who
Hmm.
are interested in making sure that it's almost a shop local type of thing. Now, the original, I'll explain it like this. So, because of the pandemic, the Gen Zers being locked inside at that time, it kind of became a very big deal to have really individualized clothing. It was like there were so these secondhand garment shops and accessories, places where girls could buy clothes and shop online and find things that were very unique and very differentiated between them and all this other mass produced stuff that was new. They got into purchasing those kinds of clothes, and have actually turned that into a cycle that they regularly shop in. They do not buy new things, and given the trending with Gen Z, I thought that was really, really interesting, because they're buying purses, or the girls are buying purses, the guys are buying jeans and shirts and everything, and just there's a
This is
resistance.
Yeah, this is interesting because you know how they say that trends always pop up every 20 years or however
Yeah,
many, I remember because we talked about this before. I would be considered like a younger Xer. So you're probably like one of the older,
yeah,
because
I
it's
am. Yeah,
weird like how, like how we're split up and you could have
for
micro
sure.
generations. So by
Yep.
the time I was in my adolescence in the 90s, that was huge for us in Gen X, that we were thrifting, repurposing clothes, and it was almost like, I mean, it also seemed to me like a resurgence from the 70s and the punk era, like when people were like repurposing their clothes and trying to make things on
Yeah.
their own and not buy into the corporation. Now this might be a different type of a thing, because with us music was very much intertwined in that whole
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah.
This might be, though, late stage capitalism failure. Like this might be like not necessarily a trend, but almost like well, not even almost, it's like a necessity,
Yeah,
to
they were
where
saying how
now you
there
have to be
just isn't the
resourceful.
money, that they don't have
Yes.
it. They don't have it to go spend on this stuff in the same way that the younger, or generations that are closer to mine, or perhaps yours maybe
Yeah.
too, have had to spend on those kind
From
of things.
before.
And
Yeah.
yeah, and their level of thrift has to be. And I thank you, by the way. Who was it? It scrolled off. Shoot. Anyway, it was somebody that pointed out the thrifty thing, and it was our thrifting thing, and I was like, yeah, thrift is what was called, and it was
Yeah,
like,
thrifting. Yeah,
yeah,
absolutely.
yeah, and it was like, this is an awesome change for the better, because
Yes.
I will say something about, many of you know, I've said it before, I don't hide it, I'm not, not proud or ashamed of it, it's just a thing in my background. I was in corporate on a lot of, in some financial services areas for a while, and did some other things for a while, but I have that business background, so I know how corporations will turn themselves inside out as pretzels. I'm not there now anymore, by the way, not at all, and haven't been for several years. But the corporations will definitely turn themselves inside out to, sell and make the sale to especially the younger generation, because
Yeah.
if they feel like they can hook you young, they want to, right? It's just a
And
marketing
millennial and Gen
technique.
Z are huge. Like Gen X was
Yep.
a smaller generation, but like
Yeah.
the amount of people too, I think is the reason
Yeah.
why corporations pander to them so much.
Yeah. And I will say, from the inside out, that is so true. And, from the inside view out to the world, that
Mm-hmm.
that lines up with everything that people will, the companies and decision makers I'd seen go after do that. And I will say something else about that as an adjacent comment, which is, a lot of people are like, support small business. And I've heard some secondary criticism come from that, and saying, well, if
Hmm.
they're just reselling Chinese goods, what does
Oh,
it matter? Right. And it's like, but I will tell you this, it is, even if it's retail or whatever small business does, if they are taking the initiative and they are stepping up to really take the risk on of starting a small business, doing all the things, because you really have to wear every hat. Those of you, I'm sure, in the audience, there's people that either are or were, or will be, small business people, and it is a huge challenge. And a lot of people do this where as we go farther down this road of rejecting oligarchy and rejecting this wealth transfer upwards to
yep.
people who are redonkulously wealthy already. I think small businesses are going to become a big deal. I mean, they're going to become the way
Yes.
of defaulting to some things. And Lisa Joy, I know we've talked about, farm and the things that are in farming, but I will say rural folks have such a awesome advantage in some ways, for
That's
the
true.
small business situation over being actually in a busier city. You would say, how
Hmm.
can that be, Rick? But the truth is, retail gets saturated so quick. Whereas if you can buy and sell among neighbors or among collections of, like just sort of a geographic area that you work in, that can be a sustainable type of income in some cases. In some
Exactly.
cases, not. It has to be supplemented with different things. But I will say, though, that those types of businesses this year are thriving. The rural, small, and more agriculturally focused businesses, just from the data that the government collects on this stuff, really shot up in 2024, and we'll see that as a 25 phenomenon as well. There's just no way that's going to slide back, and that is a resilient business to a
Right.
recession, by the way. So that's a great thing.
And this whole the Gen Z trend, well, whether it's a trend or not, I
Yeah.
really think that it's by necessity. And I am hoping, because we always talk about late stage capitalism, I always knew we were going to end up here. At some point, the musical chairs are going to stop. So the sustainability, at least like that, would end up coming back in. Mindfulness about what you're buying, and
Yeah.
how you can conserve, and how you could stretch things and repurpose them, things that we have gotten away from with this supply side economics bull crap.
Yes, yes, absolutely. I
Hmm.
agree. And I will say, it's the more unique type of things that we can buy and sell as we move, especially towards this particular holiday. the even the more thrifty gifts just seem to me to be so much more attractive in something I would rather have than yet another, I don't know, oven mitt or kitchen appliance, a
Right.
kitchen utensil type thing or whatever, because I cook a lot. That to me, I'd be fine if it was two, tongue depressors, glued together. If it was from, if it was a memory, that I would look
Yeah.
at and be reminded of, I would love that. That would be great.
I
So,
agree with you totally about that.
it's
Something more
so,
curated and
yeah.
thoughtful.
Yeah,
Hmm.
absolutely. So hey, well that was all I had on it. And Lisa, I think you know what time it is here, so we
Yes.
probably I need
Capturing
to
the
start doing
comments.
my piece.
Yeah. Thank you
Um,
guys so much. I'm just looking through. I can't wait to see because it looks like Lisa, you guys are, because I know Lisa is very like crafty and she does a lot of things. She's also a really
yeah,
wonderful artist, so she does a lot of that stuff too. So you guys are having a conversation in here, it looks like, about um about like making things like on your own, which is great. But thank you guys so much for joining us. As always, we love this
yes,
community. If there's any new faces here, definitely subscribe. I think I see a couple of new names, but for the most part, we see a lot of returning subscribers, which we love having you here to join in on the conversation.
right.
And
Oh, and Lisa, just one quick
yes.
comment. I wanted to thank the people that are joining us on YouTube now, because
Oh
that's
yeah,
starting to
that's right.
spread. And YouTube, by the way, thank you. If you would just take a moment to like and click that subscribe button for us, that helps us out a lot. We just passed I think 50 subscribers. And so that's for us, it's a landmark because we're very
Yes.
early on in doing the YouTube streaming. And we do appreciate everybody there, and we will be getting to the point soon where both Lisa and I can watch the comments from both YouTube and Substack. So
Yeah, that'll be awesome.
we're very grateful for everybody on both platforms. No matter how you come to us, we're just glad you're here and that you're part of this community, just like Lisa said, and that's really a wonderful thing. So we hope that your rest of your evening goes well and you stay relaxed, stay chill,
Yes.
and enjoy yourself. So thank you very much, everybody, and we will let you go with that thought, I think, if that's okay.
Yes, of
All
course.
right.